Okay, so the question that was asked of me is, what is the best remedy for some dampers that are misbehaving on a grand piano? Sluggish. I have a piano here that's being restored, and I can use this as a model. The first thing you'll do with your piano, once the action is out, is you're going to want to look at I removed the dampers so that you could see better. We want to look at first move the damper up and down. You can kind of observe its movement. You could also listen to see if you hear friction. In this case, I'm going to move the damper wire with my fingers down below, and I want you to see the space that's in here. So there is room. It shouldn't have friction in the guide rail. If there is friction, that means that the wire is rubbing up against one side of the guide rail bushing. If that's the case, and it is the problem, then you can come underneath here and using some sort of wire bending pliers, you would actually grab a hold of it and bend it so that it would actually clear the guide rail bushing and not make any friction there. If that isn't the issue, then the friction is coming from a different place, or we need to remedy it differently. You would take the damper off, right? You would take the damper off entirely, and then you can move the damper lever here to see how well it falls. You would then also move the entire assembly here, make sure that there's no friction, it doesn't stay stuck up, right? So in this case, if we've done those things and everything's fine down below, well, let me back up and say, if you find friction here in this piece, you can add in the bushing here, you could put a little bit of the liquid Protec lubricant. CLP is what you would put here. A little more difficult on the other side, but you can kind of get it in on both sides. If it happens to be farther back inside, that's more difficult, and you would have to get your screwdriver back in there and remove the whole thing. And if it's bad enough, then of course you need to repin it. In this case, this is a Steinway, so you don't have the problem of a sostenuto rail, which you would also have to remove in order to access these. So for instance, a Yamaha has a sostenuto rail that's in the way of these that you would have to get out of the way first. So I've removed the damper and wire, and I'm going to show you if the problem is in the guide rail bushing. What I do is I just use one of your regulating tools here, and from the top you can actually put it here in the bushing, and because of the way these are, you see how they're tapered, they get fatter. As you push it in the bushing and kind of rotate it around, right, with some pressure, it will expand the bushing. Now you can actually do this more permanently by adding flame. So here's the same thing, right? I will heat it with my torch or whatever, and then come back over here and then go into the bushing and then again rotate it around, adding pressure, and that will expand the bushing semi-permanently. Then you put your damper back in, and then you need to feel and listen for friction. That is the best scenario for working on your dampers. And I wouldn't use anything else on them. I wouldn't use talcum. I wouldn't try to put anything into the bushings themselves. You really need to make more space in the bushing and make sure that the wire is not rubbing up against the edges. So the tools you might need, some sort of a tapered regulating tool. You will need an actual wire bending tool for pianos. You may need a lighter. When you put it all back together, you will need to realign the damper, so you will need some pliers to realign everything. All right, happy regulating.